The hotel lobby buzzed with quiet efficiency. A polished glass box framed by marble floors, gold trim columns, and a scent of citrus air freshener piped through invisible vents. It was the kind of place where bellhops didn't walk, they glided. The concierge didn't smile, they smirked with refinement. Every movement was curated for elegance. Every interaction scripted for superiority. Except this morning, something unscripted happened. A man walked in. He wasn't dressed in the custom-tailored uniform of the El Latino Tom Ford suit. No Patek Philippe peeking from under a monogram cuff. No, he wore a simple black wool coat, clean slacks, and carried himself with a kind of quiet authority. Skin like polished mahogany, eyes sharp beneath the brim of a charcoal gray cap, and a confidence that required no announcement. He walked up to the reception counter, handed over a sleek black card without a word, and waited. The receptionist Carly glanced at the card, then at the man, then back at the card. Her brows creased slightly. She turned the card over in her hand, like it was some kind of trick. "Oh, wow," she muttered with a forced chuckle, loud enough for the nearby staff to hear. "A black card, huh? Did you borrow this from someone?" Her tone was coated in that special kind of sugar reserved for people who thought they were better than you. Behind her, another staffer Trent leaned in, chuckling. "Maybe he found it in a cab," he said under his breath, not quiet enough. Someone else, a junior concierge named Kelsey, laughed harder than she should have, like they'd just heard a punchline. A few white guests lounging near the fireplace looked up, entertained. One of them, a man in salmon-colored pants and boat shoes, muttered, "They always try to flex with fake stuff," and took out his phone, half recording, half texting. The man said nothing. He didn't blink, didn't flinch, just raised a single eyebrow. Carly tapped a few keys on her terminal, shaking her head. "Sir, I'm sorry," she said with mock politeness. "We can't validate this card without confirmation. Maybe try another one." "Maybe," she added, crossing her arms, "go grab your boss." The man still didn't say a word. His fingers tapped lightly against the marble counter. The camera above caught the close-up. Engraved into the card in silver script were the words, "Noah Chambers, CEO, Virion Technologies International." A pause. Then a storm began to brew. Noah looked up, calm and steady. "You sure about that?" he asked, his voice low, steady even. Carly rolled her eyes. "Sir, stop wasting our time. We're very busy." Noah pulled out his phone with deliberate grace, dialed without looking. "Yes, it's Noah. Cancel the Virion Vespera merger. Effective immediately. No need to proceed with the $2.8 billion offer. Pull all contracts tied to Vespera Hospitality Holdings." He hung up. The air in the lobby went completely still. A few guests sat up straighter. Carly's face drained of color. Excuse me. Wait, what merger?" she stammered. Noah looked her dead in the eyes. "The one your CEO begged me for. This hotel was supposed to host our executive summit next week. But you just told me to leave in front of your entire staff and half the lobby." Kelsey dropped her clipboard. Trent froze. A heavy silence blanketed the room, then shattered as a tall man in a suit sprinted from the hallway behind the desk. "Mr. Chambers," the hotel manager, Douglas Green, said, panting slightly, we had no idea. Please allow us to fix this. I'll get corporate on the phone immediately." Noah took a sip from the coffee he'd brought with him, as if the world wasn't collapsing around them. Green stepped away, frantically dialing. "Yes, he's here. No, it's too late. He said it's off. He pulled everything. Every account. Every hosting agreement." He looked up slowly, sweat forming at his temple. "Yes, sir. He said to cancel all contracts. It's done." Carly's voice turned to a whisper. "Wait, he's that Noah Chambers." The man in the boat shoes dropped his phone. "That's the Forbes guy. The billionaire tech genius." Noah turned back to Carly. His voice cut through the room like steel through silk. "You laughed at my card. Now your company's stock is going to drop 10% before the markets even open." And with that, he walked out. Phones lit up. Calls poured in. Emails bounced around inboxes at Vespera headquarters like bullets ricocheting in a metal room. In the corporate suite overlooking Manhattan, The CEO of Vesper Hotels slammed a glass onto the conference table. "Who the hell let this happen?" he roared. "Do you know what losing Virion's business means? That's over $2 billion gone." One of the directors answered timidly. "It looks like a receptionist profiled him, refused to validate the card, and implied it was stolen." "Fired," the CEO barked. "And the rest of you? You're all on probation. This is a PR nightmare. I want statements, apologies, a press, campaign, everything. By noon." But by then it was too late. Noah was already back in his car, looking out the window, tablet in hand. On his screen, a draft of a press release from Virion's comms team. Virion Technologies terminates $2.8 billion deal with Vespera after racial profiling incident. "We stand by our values: dignity, merit, and respect over prejudice." Noah typed a final line at the bottom of the statement. "They judge me by the color of my skin, not the weight of my name." Humiliation doesn't break strong men. It exposes weak systems. He hit send. By nightfall, the news had exploded. Virion tragedy trended on every major platform. A video surfaced from the hotel lobby showing the encounter. Comments rolled in by the thousands. "This is why we need change." He handled it with so much grace. Respect first. How many others did they do this to who weren't billionaires? Major outlets picked up the story. Think pieces, podcasts, editorials. The Vespera brand suffered a loss they couldn't recover from. Noah, meanwhile, spent the evening quietly with his younger sister, who hadn't even heard about the incident yet. He helped her with her math homework over dinner, sipping tea while her golden retriever curled at his feet. To him, justice wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was silent, powerful, and final. This hadn't been about revenge. It was about reminding them all that appearances can deceive, but truth always reveals. And sometimes, all it takes to collapse a facade is a black card, a quiet man, and a moment of clarity. The next morning, media vans were already parked outside the Vespera corporate offices. Anchors with perfect teeth and faux concern delivered their segments with practiced indignation. In a shocking development this morning, Vespera Hospitality Holdings is facing a massive fallout after an incident involving Noah Chambers, billionaire CEO of Virion Technologies. Chambers canceled a $2.8 billion merger deal after being racially profiled at one of Vespera's flagship hotels. Inside the hotel chain's Manhattan headquarters, it was chaos. Corporate Communications Director Julie Travers paced the hallway with her shoes in hand, mascara running slightly. "We need to put out a formal statement," she barked into her headset. "Now, not in 2 hours. Now." One of her interns peeped around the corner, whispering, "The receptionist Carly something's already deleted all her social media." But someone found her old Facebook posts. "It's not good." The CEO stood staring at the television screen, where the footage of Noah calmly sipping coffee was being replayed over and over again. "He played us," he muttered. He didn't lose his temper. He knew that whole thing was intentional. He could have embarrassed us on the spot, but he let us hang ourselves. Julie nodded grimly. He made a bigger point by saying nothing. By that afternoon, Vespera's stock dropped 9%. Meanwhile, at Virion's sleek downtown headquarters, the atmosphere was markedly different. The boardroom overlooked Central Park, all glass and steel and minimalism. Noah Chambers sat at the head of the table, glancing over a report without much emotion. His chief of operations, Dean Walton, leaned forward. "We've had 27 partnership offers come in this morning. Every major hotel group from Zurich to Dubai wants your next conference." Noah nodded, but didn't look up. Dean hesitated. "You know, you made your point. Loud and clear. That hotel will never recover." "It wasn't about them," Noah said simply. "It's about all of them." He tapped the folder in front of him. "Dean, set up a meeting with our in-house diversity division. I want to build a training module for every vendor we work with. No one represents us unless they reflect what we value." Dean blinked. "You want to fund hotel equity training?" "I want to lead it." Back at the hotel where it all happened, things were unraveling quickly. HR consultants had been called in. Legal teams prepped for fallout. Carly, The receptionist sat in a small office, hands trembling as she stared at a termination form. This can't be legal," she said, her voice cracking. HR Director Paula Rhodes looked exhausted. "Carly, we have 3 camera angles, 6 guest statements, and a direct loss tied to your actions. Not only is it legal, it's inevitable." Tears streamed down Carly's face. "I didn't know who he was." Paula raised an eyebrow. "And if he wasn't a billionaire? If he was just another black guest checking in quietly? What then?" There was no answer. Across the country, conversations were shifting. Corporate DEI teams began re-evaluating protocols. CEOs made statements, some genuine, some performative. But Noah Chambers didn't chase headlines. He didn't grant interviews. He didn't need to. What he did instead was return to the origin of everything, a quiet community center in South Atlanta, where he first learned how to code on a donated laptop in a room with flickering lights and peeling paint. That weekend, he visited the center in person. The director, Miss Loretta, now well into her 70s, greeted him at the door with a warm hug and a plate of cornbread. "Baby, you done got all fancy on us now." He grinned. "Still just Noah to you." They sat together under the rusting ceiling fan while kids tapped away on newer computers, most of them unaware they were being supported by the man across the room. "You handled that mess with grace," Miss Loretta said quietly. "I saw the clip. Could have raised hell." "I didn't need to," he said softly. "The system's loud enough when it trips over itself." "You always were calm," she said, patting his hand. "Still waters, baby." He looked out the dusty window. "It's not over. That hotel was one drop. We've still got an ocean to drain." That Monday, Noah announced the launch of a new initiative, the Still Waters Project, a $200 million fund focused on empowering overlooked communities, training hospitality workers, and exposing systemic barriers through real-time accountability data and audits. "We don't fix racism with hashtags," he said at the press conference. "We fix it by building structures that don't allow it to exist in the first place." Meanwhile, back in New York, Vesper shareholders staged a rebellion. The board forced the CEO to resign within 2 weeks. New leadership was brought in. Internal documents were leaked revealing similar complaints of profiling over the years that had been quietly buried. And yet, what haunted everyone most wasn't the billion-dollar loss. It was how it happened. A man walked in. He said almost nothing. And by the time he walked out, an entire corporate empire had cracked. 2 months later, the Vespera Hotel that sparked it all was rebranded under a new name with a new training program and new policies. But business never recovered. Guests associated the space with shame. And across the street, a new boutique hotel opened quietly, funded by Noah through a shell trust. The staff was diverse, trained not just in hospitality, but in humility. One morning, a young black man checked in wearing simple clothes and carrying a leather backpack. The receptionist smiled brightly. "Welcome to the Sterling, Mr. Whitmore. We're honored to have you. Can I offer you something to drink?" He smiled. "Just water, thank you." The receptionist paused. "Still or sparkling?" He chuckled. "Still." Noah's quiet influence had shifted something fundamental. Not just a hotel, not just a deal, but an entire conversation. Years later, business students would study the case. Sociologists would write papers. Documentarians would dramatize the lobby encounter. And in communities across America, children like Noah would sit in small rooms learning that power doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes the quietest voice in the room carries the most weight. In an era of spectacle, Noah Chambers had taught the world that dignity is not a performance. It's a decision. And sometimes, changing everything begins not with a scream, but with a single eyebrow raised in a room full of arrogance.